Some of the biggest hits in pop music history almost didn't see the light of day. In this video, we'll look at 10 singles that were almost never released. Firework by Katy Perry. Katy Perry's Firework is one of her most inspiring and emotionally powerful songs, but it almost didn't make it onto her 2010 album Teenage Dream. Originally, Katy struggled to connect with the song, feeling unsure whether it fit her vision for the album. The song was written by a team of hitmakers and was inspired by On the Road, a novel that Katy had been reading. However, she was skeptical about how it would be received. The label also questioned whether it had hit potential, especially with bigger, more playful tracks like California Girls and Teenage Dream on the album. Despite the doubts, Firework was ultimately chosen as the album's third single, and it became one of Katy's biggest career-defining moments. It went on to top the Billboard Hot 100, becoming Katy's third consecutive #1 hit from Teenage Dream. It later won the MTV VMA's Video of the Year, and she even performed it at the Super Bowl halftime show in 2015. Had Fireworks been scrapped, Katy's discography might have lacked one of her most universally beloved songs. Halo by Beyoncé. When Beyoncé released Halo in 2009 as one of the standout singles from her album I Am Sasha Fierce, it quickly became a defining ballad in her career. However, the song almost never saw the light of day due to a mix of industry drama and last-minute decisions. Originally written by Ryan Tedder, Halo was initially meant for Leona Lewis, who had just come off the massive success of Bleeding Love. However, due to delays in getting her to record it, Beyoncé's team swooped in and secured the track, ensuring it would be her next power ballad instead. This move even sparked tensions behind the scenes. Even after Beyoncé secured Halo, there were hurdles before its release. I Am Sasha Fierce was a carefully curated project meant to showcase two sides of Beyoncé, one soft and emotional, and the other fierce and confident, through her alter ego Sasha Fierce. Some within Beyoncé's camp feared that Halo might not be commercially viable. However, Beyoncé was adamant about including it. Despite initial doubts, Halo became one of her signature songs, proving that it was more than just a lucky addition to the album. It peaked at #5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a multi-platinum success, further solidifying her legacy. The song also won a Grammy for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance and has remained a staple in her live performances. It is now regarded as one of the greatest love songs of the 2000s, and it's hard to imagine that it was once a risk of never being released at all. Dancing Queen by ABBA. ABBA's iconic hit Dancing Queen was nearly never released. The song was originally a ballad, but later transformed into an upbeat disco anthem that would go on to become one of ABBA's most famous songs. During the recording process, the band was unsure whether they would release it, especially considering they were still finding their footing in the disco scene at the time. However, once Dancing Queen was completed, it was an instant hit, reaching the top of the charts in multiple countries and becoming ABBA's most successful song worldwide. Initially, it was recorded in 1975 as part of the album Arrival, and it was nearly left off the final track list due to creative differences. But once they decided to release it as a single, it became a global smash hit, reaching #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the US and dominating charts worldwide. Today, it is considered as one of the greatest pop songs of all time. One Thing by Amerie. Amerie's One Thing was almost never released after her label was hesitant about it. The song was originally recorded for her second album, Because I Love It, which had already experienced delays due to creative differences and label issues. Initially, the label wasn't convinced that it would be a commercial success. It was also supposed to go to Jennifer Lopez, but the writer leaked it to radio stations, and it became a hit. Despite initial doubts, One Thing turned out to be a breakthrough moment for Amerie. The song peaked at #8 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it her first and only top 10 hit in the US. It ended up becoming one of the most memorable tracks from 2005. However, despite the song's success, One Thing was almost never released, and its path to the charts was difficult because of doubts and delays. It remains an example of a song that almost didn't make it, but ended up becoming a defining moment in the artist's career. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. When Queen was recording A Night at the Opera in 1975, they knew they had something special with Bohemian Rhapsody, but their label wasn't convinced. At nearly 6 minutes long, The song was far from a traditional radio-friendly hit, and executives at EMI were hesitant to release it as a single. They feared it would confuse listeners. Even the band's manager was unsure about how to market it. Queen, however, refused to back down, believing in their vision for the song. They played it for influential radio DJ Katy, who loved it so much that he played snippets on air. Then the demand skyrocketed, and they eventually gave in and released it as a single. It became an instant phenomenon, topping the UK charts for 9 weeks and later becoming one of the best-selling songs of all time. Over the years, Bohemian Rhapsody has cemented itself as one of the most iconic songs in history. It re-entered the charts in the early 90s after its inclusion in the movie Wayne's World, and again came back to the charts when the biopic was released in 2018. It is now one of the most streamed songs from the 70s, sitting on 2.6 billion streams on Spotify. Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. In the early 90s, Nirvana was gaining traction in the underground music scene, but their label didn't initially see Smells Like Teen Spirit as a commercial single. The band had recorded the song for their second album, Nevermind, but they weren't fully convinced of its potential themselves. Kurt Cobain reportedly worried that it sounded too much like a Pixies ripoff and almost left it off the album entirely. The label, on the other hand, was more interested in promoting Come As You Are as the lead single, believing it had a broader appeal. However, when Nevermind was released, alternative rock stations started playing Smells Like Teen Spirit on their own, and listeners became obsessed with it. The overwhelming demand forced the label to release it as a single in September 1991. Within months, the song exploded, propelling Nirvana to mainstream success and redefining the grunge movement. It became the ultimate anthem and has maintained its relevance over the years, accumulating 2.2 billion streams on Spotify. Had it not been for the persistence of radio DJs and fans, it might have never been released as a single. Rolling in the Deep by Adele. Before Adele became a household name, she was facing a turning point in her career. After the moderate success of her album 19, she needed a strong follow-up to cement her status. However, 21 almost didn't include Rolling in the Deep at all. The song was written after a painful breakup, and she was hesitant about recording it because it was too real. And initially, she wasn't sure it fit the album's sound. Adding to the uncertainty, her label wasn't convinced that the song should be the album's lead single. They thought it wasn't commercial enough to get radio play, but her producer Paul Epworth encouraged Adele to embrace the song's raw emotion, and she ultimately decided to record it. When the label finally took the risk and released it, the song blew up beyond anyone's expectations. Rolling in the Deep went on to become Adele's breakout hit, topping the Billboard Hot 100 for 7 weeks and winning multiple Grammy Awards. It is crazy to think that one of the most powerful breakup anthems in history might never have been released. I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. Before I Will Always Love You became one of the best-selling singles of all time, it was almost never recorded by Whitney Houston. The song, originally written and recorded by Dolly Parton in 1973, was intended to be a gentle farewell to her mentor. When Whitney was cast in The Bodyguard in 1992, the film's producers initially wanted her to sing What Becomes of the Brokenhearted. However, that song was already being used in another film, leading to her co-star Kevin Costner to suggest I Will Always Love You. At first, Whitney's team hesitated because they were unsure if a country ballad could translate into a powerful R&B rendition. Despite initial doubts, Whitney transformed the song into an iconic power ballad. It became undeniable and shattered records, spending 14 weeks on number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and selling over 20 million copies worldwide. The song's success cemented Whitney's legacy as one of the greatest vocalists of all time, but if her team had their way, it might never have been recorded. Creep by Radiohead. Creep might be one of Radiohead's most famous songs, but the band, and even their record label, initially considered it too depressing to release. Written by the frontman Tom York, the song was inspired by his feelings of self-doubt and alienation. When Radiohead recorded it for their 1992 debut album, Pablo Honey, their producer initially dismissed it as too melancholic, fearing it lacked commercial appeal. Even the band's members themselves weren't entirely convinced, thinking it was just another song in their catalog. Their label EMI reluctantly included it as a single, but barely promoted it. The song flopped in the UK at first. However, after gaining unexpected traction in the US, radio stations began playing it non-stop. The growing buzz led to a 1993 re-release, which saw Creep become a global hit, peaking at number 7 on the UK singles chart and peaking at number 34 on the Billboard Hot 100. Despite its success, Radiohead grew to resent the song, as it overshadowed their latter, more innovative work. Today, Creep remains an anthem, accumulating close to 2 billion streams on Spotify. Let It Go by Idina Menzel. Let It Go became a cultural phenomenon thanks to the Disney film Frozen, but the song nearly took a very different path, or didn't happen at all. Originally, Elsa was meant to be the film's villain, and her signature song was supposed to reflect that. However, when songwriters wrote Let It Go, it was so good that it led Disney to completely rethink Elsa's character arc. Instead of being a dark anthem, the song became a powerful moment of self-acceptance, altering the film's narrative entirely. Even after this rewrite, Disney executives debated whether Let It Go was the right fit. Some worried the song would be too dramatic for younger audiences, but Idina Menzel's powerful vocal performance ultimately won them over. When the song was finally released in 2013, it quickly became one of the most successful Disney songs in history, peaking at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and winning Best Original Song at the Oscars. Let It Go not only defined Frozen, but also became an anthem worldwide, and to think it was almost never released. Which singles that were almost never released did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.